A very good morning, Namibia. Rise and shine. Thank you, Tim Vintuk. We're still finding ourselves in the Irongo region, specifically in Swakopmund, as we continue to bring you an update of what is happening at the fourth National Skills Competition that is taking place at the MTC Dome. Well, my name is Ndapewa Ambabi. A very good morning to you. And yes, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Now, yesterday we experienced day two, pardon me, of the fourth National Skills Competition, where a conference took place and also the competitions started in the different 16 skill areas, and we definitely brought you that update on our NBC digital news platforms. So in case you missed them yesterday, you can always go back, but we will continue to bring you those updates that is throughout the day. As we continue off, that is with the conversations this time around, Namibia has definitely taken a decisive step towards shaping its digital future with the official launch of the country's first artificial intelligence readiness assessment report. Now, what are some of the key highlights, the progress, and also the challenges and strategies to harnessing AI for inclusive vocational education? Georgina Kozmon, who is a specialist that is for GIZ and also for the NTA, now joins us to talk to us about AI when it comes to technical vocation and also educational training. Ms. Kozmon, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ndapewa. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely morning. First things first, how do you see AI transforming vocational education and also training, perhaps in Namibia and also just generally?
Okay. That's a very broad question,
Yes.
but I like the broad questions. So I think we could take it away from TVET and look at educational systems as a whole.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about how AI, or rather generative AI and maybe large language models, have already entered educational spaces, we will see that there's quite a lot of disruption happening. I'm hearing that many educators are asking about plagiarism, which means now, for example, that students or learners, they use a large language model like ChatGPT to create their assignments and their homework, and then they would hand it in as their own, right? In my view, that is not the biggest problem or the biggest concern that we should be having. We should be rather talking about if everyone has access to large language models like ChatGPT, Copilot, and all of them, we actually have the world of education right at our fingertips. Which means then again, what role are teachers or trainers or educators having in the future? What role are institutions having in the future? Because teachers and trainers effectively have now another competition, I would say, in the pocket of their trainees or of their learners, and institutions as well. If there's a lot of education happening in outside of educational spaces, what do we need to do in the educational spaces? Why do we still need to come together as humans? Because we need to. We need to definitely come together, but some of the reasons they might change with time. They might transform. So that transformation is quite significant.
Yeah. So, what do you think Namibian educators need in order for them to embrace artificial intelligence and also just AI tools when it comes to their teaching practices?
Yes, I think we would need to understand what AI can do, or large language models rather can do, and what they can't do. Sometimes some people might use ChatGPT and all those models like a more sophisticated Google search, but it is more than that. You can adopt a whole persona if you prompt well. So if you learn how to prompt through an LLM to adopt a certain persona, you can come to a place where it can act as your own private tutor, as your own business mentor, as your own engineer in a certain trade that you want to learn. So if Namibian educators or any educator in the world really knows that, and if the students also start knowing that, again, that will mean that how is the interaction between those students and teachers changing? Students or they might have different needs now from their trainers or their teachers because they know, okay, maybe most of the knowledge I can get it from somewhere else, not anymore from my teacher. So their need will become, I need to be coached, I need to be guided, I need to be somehow oriented, and how do I find myself in this vast land of opportunities, I would say, to be a bit more oriented. And two other things would be that the literacy of, I would say, outsourcing our brains. That is a massive concern for me, because sometimes I see that people are just copy pasting the output that they are getting, and we know by now that most of the models that we are using, they are being developed, for example, in the USA. If you look at OpenAI's ChatGPT, they are developed in a certain place. So it can be that the way those models are designed, they are representing certain cultural values, which would automatically mean that if I adopt always the output that I'm getting, I'm overseeing own contextualized knowledge, own cultural values that are relevant for the assignments, for the answers, for whatever I'm creating with those tools. So this literacy of being critical of what I'm getting as an output and being critical of still applying my brain, that is something that we need to force ourselves to do, the same way like we are forcing ourselves to go to the gym maybe, or eat healthy, or whatever we need to do, because that is very important to still keep growing our brain, even though we have these amazingly smart assistants in our pockets.
So what you're saying is we are definitely embracing AI.
Yes.
Amazing. Talk to us about the role that partnerships between universities, the government, and also just the private sectors can play when it comes to accelerating the adoption of AI when it comes to the education system.
That's a very, very good question, because for me, I sometimes see that we are almost placing the problem in the schools. We are saying, no, that is an educational matter, and teachers and trainers need to somehow evoke digital literacy, AI competencies and all that. However, for me, that is a massive societal issue. It is not only in education. As parents, we need to educate ourselves. Government, we need to have campaigns. That is a whole endeavor that should not only take place in schools. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we know by now that I know that in our normal colloquial language, when we say AI, we sometimes mean just the large language models and your ChatGPT. But the truth is, right now, your big companies and commercial industries, I don't want to say names, but the big monopolies, our big technocrats, they are working on achieving artificial general intelligence and even artificial superintelligence, which are models that can surpass human capabilities. So when there's a race happening in those companies, and that means you would have maybe a point where a commercial company invents something that is bigger than government or bigger than us, and we talk too little about that. We are talking more about, is AI making us dumb and all those things, and those are relevant questions. But we are overlooking what is happening in the background, where a lot of researchers and a lot of developers are leaving from those companies because they are feeling the companies are not working anymore into developing safe AI. They are wanting to win the race to artificial general intelligence or super intelligence, which is something that is not talked about enough in my view.
I hear you. Perhaps lastly, before we let you go, with the rise of AI in education, how should Namibia address ethical concerns such as data privacy and also just potential biases when it comes to the AI system?
Data privacy and bias are two very, very different things. Let me talk about bias first, because especially in our space in Southern Africa, that is such an interesting topic to discuss, because we will have a situation where the contextualized knowledge that we're having is not part of those models. Only training data that models have been trained on, which is digitalized data, is part of that brain that we are utilizing. There is a lot of knowledge out there that is not digitalized, that is maybe in languages that those models can't grasp, that comes maybe from other generations that have not digitalized those knowledge pockets, right? So this bias we need to be aware of, that some of the models might be biased in a certain political direction, in a certain ideological direction, or without any judgment, any type of opinion, which we perceive as a universal truth. But it is not a universal truth. It is just a prediction of data that it was fed, And that is something we need to be aware of, that the bias that we are getting through those outputs that we are getting are questionable if we apply our own knowledge or like critical perspectives on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Ms. Kozmon, and it was a pleasure having you on Good Morning
Thank you
Namibia.
so much, Ndapewa.
All right.
All right.